So very good morning, dear all the participants. So today this is our inaugural session, and we are going to conduct this 5 days program, especially on the application of NDT techniques for assessing for monitoring of RCC structures. So in this 5 days program, I, Dr. Amit Goel, and with me, Dr. Sanjay Sharma, we both are coordinating this program for 5 days, and we have invited various experts from the field, from the research institutions to deliver their talks from the field. Especially, we kept some of the lectures who are the mentors for the instrumentation as far as this entity is concerned. So I hope that you will enjoy this 5 days program. I hope that you all got the schedule, and if anything is there, so you are kindly requested you are kindly requested to feel free to contact me. My mobile number is already with you, and we are going to create one WhatsApp link. So you all are kindly requested to join that WhatsApp link, so that time to time the information can be delivered to you on this WhatsApp group, because it is a very fast channel. So we can give you the instructions whatever will be there in this WhatsApp group, and your attendance will be monitored through both the modes, through this Google Meet mode also, and through we will create one attendance form. But your certificate will be generated if you will fulfill the attendance criteria in the Google form, right? Because many a times we got the request that we have attended the program, but we are not having your attendance in the Google Meet. So we will not be able to give you the certificates if attendance in the Google Meet will not be there, right? Because some of the participants, they are not attending the program, but the link which we are supplying in the which we are giving in the WhatsApp group, they are filling that link. So this will not be there. So you need to attend this program regularly, and after that only the certificate will be generated, right? So if you are having any query, you feel free to contact us anytime. Now I would like to welcome our head of the department, Dr. Sanjay Sharma, in this 5 days program, and he is the force behind this program, and he himself is doing a lot of consultancy work in monitoring of RC structures using this NDT technique. And he is the best person to interact with, because many practical problem he has experienced as far as this health monitoring of structures through NDT is concerned. So without wasting any time, because we are already running late, so I would like to invite Dr. Sanjay Sharma to kindly say a few words, and after that I think the first lecture is of Dr. Sanjay Sharma is only, and he will interact with you in the course of the time. So now I would like to invite him and request him to kindly say a few words. So Dr. Sanjay Sharma.
Okay, thank you very much, Amit, and I welcome all the participants for this STC on evaluation of RCC structure using NDT techniques. NDT is a very specialized area, and basically where there is a lot of demand for repair and rehabilitation of structures, and without NDT, actually, if we cannot go beyond and we cannot suggest anything effectively. So the importance of NDT techniques, not only in repair rehabilitation, but in say quality control, is also very important. And there are so many new techniques are coming up which are being used. New equipments are there, and again many equipments are being replaced by the newer one, and they have got say better interpretation wise also. Their application is easier there, and they are and understanding and carrying out actual tests at the site are much simpler. And then now I think with this imaging and 3D, basically these technologies, we can able to actually see what is there in that inside in the structure. So so basically we will I think timetable has been distributed to you, and we will be we have tried to cover basic on NDT non-structural techniques. Then some of the techniques may be discussed in detail. At the same time, we have invited the field experts also, or say manufacturers from that manufacturers also, who will be carrying out that sort of presenting what are the new equipment and what is their range and what is the application these equipment has got. So I think in the during the course of discussions, we'll be discussing all those techniques, and the overall objective is that okay, you to make aware regarding this availability of NDT and its use, its application, and also interpretation of the results is very important. So all those aspects we will try to cover in this program. And so I think nothing more to say. I again welcome you, and I am finding if you have got anything to say, I am finding few of Harun is there, I think, and I know personally. So otherwise, anybody else wants to speak, so you can. Yeah, you are welcome.
Good morning, sir, and good morning all the participants. I am Harunal Rashid from Guwahati, Assam. So I did my masters from NIT Chandigarh. So I am very much fond of NIT Chandigarh. So I want to join every program being conducted there. But due to some problems in my college and my duties, sometimes I may not be able to join. But this NDT technique is very much important in Assam also. See, it is a seismic zone 5. So all the school buildings are there to submit some sort of stability certificate. For in these things only we use NDT techniques. Mostly Assam Engineering College, Jalukbari, then IIT Guwahati, then my institute, Girls Polytechnic, and one more polytechnic there. We all are in this field only. So I think this training will be very much helpful for all of us, because it is a very new field of work, and it is very much necessary in India also. So this much only. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. So any other participant, if you want to say something, or we can go ahead with our first presentation. So I think we can start our presentation. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So I am audible also. So as I was discussing, NDT non-structural testing techniques is a very say important area of application in investigation of structures, and at the same time in quality control also. So both the aspects are very important, but because knowing the exact cause of deterioration or exact cause of defect is very essential. And if we say carry out any repair or rehabilitation without looking into that how it was caused, why it is there, we will not be able to recommend the appropriate remedial measures, and anything cosmetic repairs will again lead to further this thing. And it is I think any sort of a defect, if it is a non-structural defect also, later on it converts into a structural defect also, leading to either failure or collapse of the structure. So So basically that is what we try to see, that in any say non-substitute testing, I will call that visual inspection is also the no entity technique. That is I include it as an entity technique because from if we go to a site, if you check it, so basically you should be, there are so many say non-substitute tests are available. So what type of test to be conducted? So it will depend upon your visual inspection only, because you want to know the type of defect. After knowing the type of defect, you will use the appropriate type of equipment for further investigation. So basically knowing the defects in structure is very, very important. And first, whenever you get any job for carrying out say visual for investigation or for quality control also, I think first you need to decide that okay, what type of defects are there in the structure. And like if you see that our buildings, many of the old structures, they are still, I think, built centuries ago, but they are still in a very good condition, providing service, everything. But a few structures basically they deteriorate and basically they become unusable after maybe 10 years, 20 years. But in any case, we are expecting that our structures, RCC structure or any RCC building life is about 80 to 100 years, and which can be enhanced with the proper maintenance or with the proper site of repairs, etc. But the factors which will affect the life of any structure are like it is a whether it what is the type of construction, either temporary or permanent, quality of construction, material and workmanship, service loads, what are the loads coming on the structure, or whether any changes have been introduced in the structure, maybe additional story has been built or additional or some other items have been provided on the top of the structure. Then many times there are structural deficiencies. Recently we had a case has come to us that where they were constructing a 4-story building in Delhi area, having it was a housing only, but the design provided the drop columns there. Okay. And basically there was when we and as they went above, they carried out that sort of construction up to 4-story, and it was found that the cracks started appearing in the columns in the slabs also. So basically, yes, the always first thing goes into mind is quality of the work. So quality of the work was checked by using NDT technique, mainly the bone hammer and this ultrasonic pulse velocity. But then it was found that quality was okay. Then structural say audit was carried out, structural design was say studied, and it was found many deficiencies were there in the structure also. So basically, sometimes structural design deficiency also lead to some sort of a failure. Then inbuilt structural construction deficiencies are always there. Something honeycombing, something coning is not done. Exposure conditions, I think environmental factors are always there, and they cause the say this corrosion or some other things to occur in the buildings. Many times natural calamities are there, so there also earthquakes and cyclones, landslide, fires. Then natural aging is one. Then generally we assume the life of a structure 80 years, so we have to, that is why sometimes we can provide outside protection. So all those things are to be studied and found out, and lack of maintenance, etc., is also there in the structures. So these are the environmental factors, and one of the major reasons for deterioration is again the carbon dioxide gas. I think the corrosion you find in any sort of any structure which ultimately leads to spalling of the cover concrete and a loss of strength of your loss of your area of the concrete of your reinforcing bar is due to this carbon dioxide or oxygen ingress. What happens generally, this is a phenomena which is known as carbonation. So this carbon dioxide gas gets mixed with the this your water, and that because of the permeability, it penetrates from the atmosphere to your concrete. Uh, as such, carbonation is not a problem to the concrete, but what it does is it reduces its pH value. The pH value of your carbon and your concrete is almost is alkaline material are almost near to 30, and once it starts reducing due to this form of carbonic acid, which we call is which is there due to the carbon dioxide gas and the water or moisture present, this carbonic acid lowers the pH value, and as that carbonation immigrates from the cover and goes deep into your concrete, it reaches the bar level, and on reaching the bar level, basically it will cause the it will convert this ferrous into ferric, which is nothing but rusting, and that rusting will cause the debonding of concrete and your this thing, and rusting further if deteriorates, you almost completely your it eats up the bar also, and basically the concrete losing its strength and ultimately leads to the failure. So carbonation is one of the major causes of deterioration in our building structures. And basically it is once we carried out a research project in Chandigarh, and we selected the buildings of different ages, and what we found is that the buildings which were located near the areas like traffic, where traffic was more, so there the deterioration of this due to this corrosion etc. was very high as compared to the buildings which were not in the traffic zone area. So basically the reason was that carbon dioxide was more being released by vehicles, and that is again causing the damage to the building. So this is again what the people do for repair is, so what they remove is, once this cover concrete goes out, they will remove that loose concrete and put another sort of some repair it with that without removing this rusted concrete or rusting into this thing, and then after 5-6 months that cracks again appear. So this is we must understand that, okay, how this carbonation is causing the deterioration, and then we measure the depth of the carbonation and measure to what extent that corrosion has occurred, and only then we take the appropriate type of a remedial measures. And so defects are like disintegration, spalling, delaminations, cracking. Many times that different cracks appear. The crack in a structure is like temperature in your body. So you are getting a temperature, but what is the cause? So there you carry out the testing, like it may be malaria, it may be your COVID, it may be your typhoid, etc. So basically we need to carry out the so crack in a structure is like your say temperature in your body to your in a human being. So you carry out that investigations and find out what is the exact cause of cracking in that structure, and there your anti techniques are very, very simple. Then leakages is one of the major areas. Like I think this is a very big problem in Indian buildings. Basically, you can say where multi-story buildings are there. Then natural wear and tear, deflection, sag, bulking, again due to the design problems. Expansion joint is many times missing. Expansion. Many times we don't provide the expansion joint. If at all expansion joint is provided, it is wrongly provided. So what I have observed in many buildings is that, okay, if it is a common column, so in the column there is no expansion joint. Only in the slab that expansion joint is provided, and that too not properly. So basically, this is one of the again many times major problem in any building failure or say problem in a structure. Settlement. This is again many times happens that, okay, we have wrongly taken this bearing capacity, or clay zone is at a very low level, so moisture getting into the clay will cause the this differential settlement there because of it because it is expansion and contraction quality, because as it comes in contact with the moisture in the water, it expands, and when there is no water, so it contracts very fast. So basically that this expansion contraction will cause the differential settlement in any sort of a building if it is in that particular zone. So this is also very much there, and we have carried out many buildings recently. A police training center was constructed in the Patela, and there the building was absolutely fine, quality was very good, but the issue was that okay, they have not have provided proper police protection, and during that rainy season the water entered into the foundation, and clay being at a say about 1 meter or so below, so it caused that unequal expansion and caused lot of cracks in the beam, column, etc. In that. So that is one of the major issues basically when we are taking out. So we have to think that okay, how to drain out water and how to do that also. So this is just showing that okay, in the importance of investigation and carrying out the repair. So if we are normally if we are not taking any sort of a repair protection investigations, so failure cost is very high. So it occurs also very faster, but if we are carrying out, we can delay it. The proper repair, proper investigations, proper preventive measures, etc. are carried out. So for that we need that just a certain sort of a thing. So that as you understand, I think all of you understand that the cracks are there. It can be structural crack, it can be non-structural cracks. It can be structural, it can be non-structural cracks, and so basically the structural cracks are due to incorrect design, faulty construction, overloading, incorrect detailing, incorrect assessment of bearing foundations, movement of settlement of soil and corrosion. So we have already discussed, and then non-structural cracks are there, and these cracks are mainly due to moisture changes, thermal movement, elastic deformations, creep, chemical reaction, foundation movement, and vegetation, etc. So 80% are non-structural cracks, but these 80%, if not attended well in time, they convert into your structural cracks. And regarding this, one of the recently we carried out one investigation of a historic building in Shimla. It was a very important building constructed in 1863, all timber structure, and it was there was a cracks appearing, and basically that settlement had occurred, and cracks appeared in that particular system, and one portion got settled down. So then when we investigated, basically what we did is we used the thermal camera there. I think maybe if we get time, I will show you today, but if not, then we can discuss it on some other day. The thermal camera, and using that thermal camera, basically we could able to find, because it is a timber structure, what has happened is they have provided the foundation at the bottom, and then horizontal timber members were basically screwed, and on that vertical columns and cross members were provided in that particular this thing. So what has happened that moisture was getting this thing into that, but and then in between they have filled that wall with this rubble masonry also. So moisture was going inside due to because it's a hilly area. From the upper side was upper side of your this hill area, that moisture was entering into that particular site, and it caused the settlement basically. That of, and also rotting of the timber also, because it's a timber structure. So I think timber wet rotting, you understand all that. So basically moisture entering. So we took the thermal camera and moisture meter we used, and we identified the areas where moisture level was very high, and then from there we took the timber pieces also. On the timber pieces we conducted the this ultrasonic pulse velocity, and we took the new member also of same, basically the timber of same type, and on that also we conducted the NDT test also. Compared about the test, found out the areas which were giving that lower values, or found out the areas which were having the higher moisture contact, and based on that the remedial wares were suggested. So basically, that is what one of the like thing we can use sort of a thing. And sometimes if there are like your construction faults are there, so one of the bridges we rehabilitated using this NDT technique only. So it was a railway say bridge near Maholi, and that basically that it was a box type pre-stressed bridge. Box of that pre-stressed on which railway were to be laid at the top. So the actually the size was about 21 meters, 7 meter high, and 450 450 to 700 thick. So what they costed this brick in a single go, and using the surface vibrators, and because of that, it when they removed the shuttering, and when they removed it, it was highly found. It is a highly honeycomb to the extent that you can take out the this aggregates by your hand only. So again, reconstruction is demolishing and reconstruction cost was very high. So we said that okay, let us try to rehabilitate it. And there, what we did is we used the rebound hammer and ultrasonic pulse velocity. We were having the cubes. It was M40 grade concrete. On M40 grade green, the pulse velocity was coming about 5,000 meter per second, and rebound hammer test was rebound number was coming about 45. And we decided that at the site also this much should rebound UPV ultrasonic pulse velocity 5,000 and rebound number 45 should be achieved. So basically, we first it was repaired by cement grouting, and then carried out the testing where the we could retrieve the result. That area was deleted, and next and it was basically we made a grid of half meter by half meter. In the half meter we carried out NDT, rebound hammer, and ultrasonic pulse velocity, and there we could and by this say elimination process we rehabilitated the whole that pre-stressed your box and ultimately it was repaired properly with a cost of about 5 lakhs only, where reconstruction cost was about 40 to 50 lakhs. So so that much the difference was there, and you can very well imagine that by understanding the proper type of defects and selecting the right type of a say NDT test, we can use this sort of a thing. So basically, we need to understand, okay, if what type of a cracks are there in the slab or in any structure, and try to understand, have a sort of a look what type of a cracks are there, whether they are shear cracks, whether they are due to deflection, whether they are due to flexural crack, or only then you can decide properly that what type of this is okay. If you go to site, if diagonal cracks are there like this, so basically they are the shear cracks. So that is what through visual inspection, we try to understand what is the type of defect, so that we are able to decide later on what tests are to be conducted there. So this is a flexure also, failure also. You can see next. You can see this. This is again flexure crack in a slab, flexure crack in a beam. This is the flexure crack in a. You can see this flexure crack in a column. This is a tension cracks type of this thing. So see, I think you try to understand what is the pattern of crack, and seeing the pattern of crack, I think you should be able to see that, okay, how what is the reason behind that sort of a defect. Yeah, these are compression cracks, weak in compression zone. So compression cracks are there. This is the settlement cracks. Yeah. Diagonally, starting from one corner, going to the window and going diagonally down. Sorry. This is again settlement cracks shown here. And you repair any to any extent. So generally, this is the trend. Basically, what they do is any crack appear, so they fill it up with the cement without bothering whether it will, so basically it will reappear after some time. If not here, it will reappear here or somewhere else also. So we need to remove that cause why this settlement is taking place. So basically, if it is a water entering, we need to stop the water, or if it is a foundation bearing capacity is not proper, so we need to improve the bearing capacity by grouting, etc. So so that is what we need to understand the thing and take the proper measure. These are all the pattern of the settlement cracks. So this is the wall without plinth beams. This is again the external ground settling down. See, this particular ground is settling down. A big gap has appeared in this particular plinth protection and your building foundation. Water enters here also. Yeah. This is what you can say external ground settlement. This is completely settlement has taken place, and cracks will appear whatever the structure may be there. This is what plumbing line damage. Again, you can one of the buildings basically which was not showing. What we found is that okay, these traps which were provided at the bottom, so they were settled down. All the plumbing were settling down. So from there we could understand that foundation is there is a foundation settlement in that particular building. These are the earthquake damages. I think once you go, so again what type of earthquake damage you get from there, I think you can understand that okay, what is the deficiency in that particular building, and basically accordingly you can to justify your say further investigation, you carry out the further investigation test. So this is again earthquake walls in the walls, corrosion cracks. Again, I think corrosion is one of the bigger phenomena, and corrosion occurs due to two reasons. One reason I have already explained is the this carbonation, and other is the chloride. And the difference between carbonation and chloride corrosion is that carbonation corrosion will crack will appear along the bar, and it will grow parallel to that particular bar. Whereas in case of a this is, you can see, this is the corrosion has occurred, spalling has taken place. So this is along the bar, crack is appearing. This is what you can see. This is the bar is going here. So here the crack is going along the bar. This is again, this particular spalling has taken place along particular bars. But here that if it is a like your corrosion due to chlorides. So what happens is chlorides are already there inside your concrete, and that is and then chloride again same phenomena occurs, because then it lowers the pH value, and when it reaches there, so there will not be any sort of a crack appearing on the surface, and the failure will be sudden. So because when the debonding takes place between cover concrete and this reinforcing bar, the cover concrete will fall out immediately. There will be small spots, corrosion spots on the surface, but otherwise you will not see anything wrong in this. So basically, the corrosion due to chloride is sudden. As you can see, this is the corrosion due to chloride. You can see that whole slab cover concrete has come down, and almost the area of section has almost reduced to zero. So basically, we need to know what is the extent of corrosion. And for that, we have the corrosion test also available, the corrosion meter, or say those resistivity meter, or say this corrosion test are there. So basically, seeing that with the help of this corrosion analysis, you can find out what is the extent of corrosion, whether your bars have reduced to almost 100%, or maybe 50%, or maybe 30%. With the values obtained from the corrosion test, we can find out what is the this sort of thing. So this is what, again, corrosion cracks, very bad. You can say almost complete loss of strength in your bar area. This is see how the section has got affected. You can see the particular your bottom of your this thing. Abandoned building basically is very this thing. So this collapse and this particular has got collapsed. You know this thing. This is again that bar along the bar carbonation. Thin members, basically non-structural members, are again, because generally they are made of M20 grade of concrete. And I think if you can make our concrete almost impermeable, then the ingress of your moisture will not be there. But that is not possible. We are not. So that is why sometimes we are using lot of this coatings nowadays. There are special coatings which we call is the anti-corrosive coatings. Anti-corrosive anti-carbonation coatings. So if you provide them on the surface, they do not allow the moisture and carbon dioxide to enter and protect your concrete surface. So basically, when we are deciding this sort of a issue, so what we do is that we need to understand to what extent this carbonation has taken place. We take a core if it is if it is not gone beyond the have not reached up to the cover level. So there we can provide coating on the surface. But if it has reached the cover level, then your repair will be different. So that is what investigation plays a very, very important role in deciding the repair rehabilitation of the structure. This is again a corrosion members. This thing, I think we have kept one session on this also. As a mechanical part also, or steel sections, how to carry out the NDT investigations. So you can see shrinkage cracks occurring into the building. So pattern of the cracks will tell you a lot about the structure. So first thing, whenever anybody comes us that sir, we want that there is some problems, we say first visual inspection is very important. Visual inspection is always a part of NDT technique, and there you need to know this is what ground level water tank is. Again, you can see complete tone. This is again due to chloride, because there are a lot of chlorides were there in the water, and basically it caused the sort of thing into your problem in the structure. Yeah, almost gone. This is the sulfate tank, particularly locations like in Punjab, Batinda, this area. So ground salts are there, and there are a lot of problems. I have seen almost newly constructed building, but people are not basically they are taking that special precautions only there also. And then sand they are using is also containing a lot of deleterious material, and they are also basically that sand contains these chlorides and sulfates, and once it enter there, so many of the say important even military structures in the area of say this Ganganagar other belt also, they have been affected by this corrosion. This thing, and one of the set tanks we tested is there were two tanks. I think you can very well imagine the say construction quality with using this example. There were two tanks, water tanks, inch type overhead tanks. They were constructed in the same year by the same contractor using the same material. So one tank was standing absolutely in very good condition. Other tank had deteriorated very badly, like you are seeing here. This thing. So once we so they wanted that to get it investigated. So we used this NDT and this rebound hammer, ultrasonic pulse velocity, and carbonation on that particular thing. And what we found is that in the tank which was damaged very badly, the cover to the concrete was not proper. It was lesser, and other tank which was there, which was having the proper cover, and where the quality of that concrete was good, which we found by using this ultrasonic pulse velocity. And so we could find out the cause of the deterioration, that the proper quality control was not maintained in the tank which got deteriorated, and it ultimately got completely rusted, and almost a whole surface was badly damaged. And then maybe the construction quality of the construction, quality of the water used was very, because sulfate we tested using this by taking the sample into the sulfates in one tank was more, and other tank was the tank in good condition, sulfate was within the reasonable this thing. So lot of the factors contribute. So that is what we have to find out by using this technique. So this is the salt attack again, showing that you can see that how this is eating the concrete. Alkali aggregate reaction. If the aggregates are having that deleterious material and all that, we have not used the proper this thing, so this type of cracks will appear. So again, the pattern of crack is telling you that what is the cause behind this particular sort of a problem. Here you can see lifting stress cracks. Basically, that is what during the lifting of that particular precast member, this particular area was. This is again, I think, one of the very major issues. Generally, we don't remove the people tree because of our religious sentiments, and you can see these trees grows, their roots going inside, causing the concrete to disintegrate. Then penetration of moisture takes place, and that is what happened. And you see proper maintenance of the roofs also. One of the structures in Chandigarh, it was a very important training institute where we tested and having the big workshops. So there the folded plate type roofs were provided. So in folded plate type, you have the angular this thing, then a channel is there. What happened in that particular thing was, in that folded plate roof structure was that their workshops mainly, and so they had they were not removing because it was height was too, it was a workshop building, so height was very much extraordinary higher building, and they were and lot of trees were there along that particular building. So all the leaves we used to get on that channel of that folded plate roof, and in the during the rain, it used to block all your say rainwater pipes. So once your rainwater pipe is blocked, so water was not draining out, it remained stagnant. So any water on the rooftop, the water there, so due to gravity, it will penetrate into your slab, and then due to capillary of that particular concrete, it will spread in the different direction. So basically, it caused, once moisture is there, once this thing there, so it will cause the say spalling or corrosion into your RCC structure, and ultimately leading to the complete failure. So basically, the reason was the lack of maintenance, because they were not removing the patte the, they were not removing them before the onset of the monsoon, and ultimately that it got clogged and all that also. So this is, I think, how and what happens. So again, it is not there. And basically, once we carried out the test of the concrete, so and this thing, we found that concrete was having no strength at all, and ultimately, so this is what sometimes vegetation, you can see, due to this vegetation, this is nothing but chaja basically, but you can see that it has deflection is there, and spout is almost blocked, and very common sight in many places. You can see this tree on the very near to your foundation, trees growing there and different this thing. So we generally don't take care and all that also. So but once we do that, once it is allowed, so first to rehabilitation, all that is one of the major problems, and only then, because it causes loss of strength of your structural members, maybe corrosion also, and so all those things are to be investigated. These are the leakages. Again, most of the acid defects in our RC structures are due to the ingress of the moisture or leakages from any place. So this particular leakage is one of the, I think 80% problems in our structure are due to the moisture ingress. Is what you can see. A very common sight, particularly our wash areas, bathroom areas, toilet area, etc., is one of the major issues there also. So we need to know that what is the moisture content, how much moisture, whether still it is having leakages there or not. So only then you have to take the remedial measure. If you take any say cosmetic remedial measure, it will not be effective at all afterwards. As you can see, very common sight in most of the structure. If you go to any structure, any place, so this is what has happened, leakages. This is a poor waterproofing. I think in our own structures near about, they were like our houses and other buildings, they were constructed in 70s. So when we got into this 2000 and all that, so almost this, it was The waterproofing technique here is mud fuska, and like bitumen coating on the mother slab, mud fuska, and then on the tile terracing. And these tile terracing, these cracks, these type of joints were there, and these joints, because of the ants and all that also, so basically most of the joints got damaged, and water started entering and causing leakage and all that also. So what we did is we thought that okay, we'll remove that particular affected portion only, remove even mud fuska if it is not proper, and relay the tiling. So but when it was done, so and joint, instead of making say very thin joint, we recommended that it was almost 1 inch joint, near about 1 inch joint. We thought that okay, we fill it with the waterproofing cement mortar, and then if any problem is there, it is easy to repair afterwards also. But what happened that contractor who was doing this, he only carried out the pointing and no filling of these joints were done. And ultimately, that in that particular season, the rainfall was very regular. So there was the continuous rainfall about 6 to 7 days, and at the same time, in the there was a wiring. It was a CTS wiring. We basically we renovated and provided the conduit pipes there also. So mother slab was about say 4 inch to 5 inch was thick only, and once we removed and we did that all the work from the bottom. So old slab constructed in 67, when concrete was used, was about 115 grade of concrete was there only. So all the factors led to the very severe leakage, and it damaged all the fans. And if there was a rainfall, if you sit below the rainfall, below that particular your roof, I think you can collect the water bucket, full 17-liter bucket in 5 minutes only. That was the quantity of leakage was there. So basically, all houses, they started living, and they started coming. You know what has been done? What has been done? So then we provided a sort of a cement coating using this integral waterproof on the top of the surface. But one of the things in the waterproofing material is that the waterproofing material has to be breathable. Breathability means that water which enters from the which comes from the top should not enter into your building, but if it is a entrapped moisture, it should come out without causing any crack in that particular structure. So basically that is because cement is not a breathable structure, breathability is not there in that property is not there. It is like your skin. If your skin is there, so skin, if you are sweating, sweat due to sweating, whatever the moisture is there, it comes out. But if you are taking bath, that particular through your skin, that water cannot enter into your body. So same type of a property should be there in any sort of a waterproofing material. But we used at that time that slurry was not a breathable material. So what happened that when the sun came, it again evaporating water caused the cracks, and again the rainfall, when there was rainfall, it again caused a lot of leakage. So ultimately we told our residents you have to bear it up, and some permanent solution was to be found out. So we carried out that. Then we road breaking also, we provided a ferro cement layer of that particular. We did the waterproofing with ferro cement. The ferro cement means that okay, we plugged we fixed a chicken mesh using a bonding cord. We provided 1:4 cement mortar in 2 layers. 2 layer we used this, and it was rehabilitated. And now that was done in 2000, and now it is 2020. Even not a single case of a leakage has occurred afterwards. So having identifying the problem, correct identification of the problem, and is very important in any sort of a repair rehabilitation. These are the plumbing problems are there. This is what generally we do in our providing the connection order. Also, we provide the damage and fix the sort of a things. So these all will lead to the problems in our structures, cracks, etc. is there, choking of manholes. This is what I gave the blockage of rainwater pipe, lot of trees, nobody is taking proper precaution, and this caused the leakage and all that also, and ultimately led to the failure. This is again, you can see generally what we do. So leakage from the tank at the bottom, stagnation of the water, okay. And many times when we are in structural buildings, so the other causes of distress or cracks may be vibrations from the pumping sand, from the pumps, building or joining to the rail tracks, building near to the rock mines, blasting areas, very close vicinity to the unsafe structure, possibility of the ponding or joining building during earthquake. These factors, this is again one of the major problems. So this is a type of a building we tested. It was a 12-story building. So what happened when the contractor, he laid the foundation, and when he laid the plinth beam and the was carrying out, he found that he has basically not provided the exact size of the distance on it also. So he took out the column and provided the offset there, bent the reinforcement and provided the offset in particular building. And ultimately, when it came to notice, it was not the proper way done. So lot of issues occurred due to that also. This is what generally you can see construction, how it has been carried out. But this particular thing came into our this thing was that almost 12 stories were built, and there was some dispute in using of cement in the using of cement. I mean, it was a grade of the concrete. It was whether M20, M20, because in drawing, basically what they have written is as per BIS 456, BIS 456 M20 minimum grade of concrete, and in the other specification it was written M15 grade of concrete. So there was a dispute in that particular thing. The whole building was constructed with this type of a construction, and once we were carrying out that, this thing came into picture. Otherwise, nobody would have noticed this also. So this is how generally we find that, okay, during this thing, this is that construction defects is again one of the very, very common causes. And generally we can use ultrasonic pulse velocity to find out the UPV test to find out the depth of the crack and extent of the crack by using this particular building. You see, cold joint. This is what honeycombed concrete, not properly. This we can use it, find out the quality of the concrete by using ultrasonic pulse velocity test. Leaching of the concrete, then water, this thing. Again, the porous concrete is there. Many times, addition or alterations are to be identified at the site by carrying out the visual inspection, and we have to see that, okay, what modifications, if any part has been removed or not, something extension has been done in any this thing, whether proper rebore or dovels were provided or not. And one of the buildings which we also investigated in Chandigarh was the 2-story building, which was otherwise designed as a 7-story structure, but then it was 2-story built about say 30 years back, and now they were not having any drawings. Nothing was available. What is the say bars, type of the bars, type of foundations, grade of the concrete were used. So there also we carried out the investigation using this entity like Ramond hammer and then ferro scanner, basically, by which we found out that what is the number of bar, what is the dia of bar, what is the cover to concrete. So and then core cutting was utilized in that RCC in this this raft foundation, and we took out what is the depth of the raft, and understand that, okay, we then based on our investigation we provided the data. On that basis, whole basically structure was redesigned compared with the existing structure, and then it was designed as a 7-story building and constructed there also. So basically this particular thing helped us to find out that exactly the grade of concrete. We found out the number of bars, we found out the spacing of the bars, we found out the cover to concrete, and again the type of the raft, what is there and what is the depth of the raft that was selected, that was identified by using this non-destructive test only. So that is what basically we use many times conversion, many times this thing. So alteration additions are carried out without causing. This is what just a wall has been added here without this thing, whether whether below the beam, whether it is allowed or not. But yes, we wanted to have a sort of a partition, so just a wall was constructed. Such cutouts are always made. This is what hole. Punching of the RC member for some purpose. And one of the say structure, mandi structure in Chandigarh, say mandi, that got collapsed because one of the say person who was Arti basically who was there, so he tried to fix a letterbox on that particular column, and it was so weak that he was hanging something, drilling that thing, and during that drilling, it was a outer column. So once it collapsed, whole building, whole slab got collapsed, and all the things, this thing. So that is causing some loss of life also at that time. So note doing that this is what deflection at the time only. That is what I was giving to the this example of flat slab. So flat slab basically are I think they tend to deflect more if not properly done, properly designed, and this thing. So that is what will cause the loss of a lot of this. Then many times, what are the assumptions? I think we need to see that also. Plaster, generally it is 12 mm, but we go up to 20 or more also. External plaster 20, we go up to 50. Ceiling plaster again we have provide more. So this is all add extra dead load on your this thing. And generally it is not accounted in your design, and that is what basically leads to. Then large span slab ratio. One of the buildings we tested in Leh, and that was a issue was very unique. So in the normal walking, there was no sort of a problem. But when I think it was a defense building, and it was a seminar hall. So when I think there was some sort of a senior officers were coming, and those junior officers were basically giving a sort of a salute by hitting the ground. उसको ground को पीछे जोर से पैर मारते थे. तो जो vibrations थी, they can be felt by a person sitting on the other end of the court. So they said, okay, let us see what we can do, what we can. Nothing this thing is. So we investigated again, starting with concrete quality, concrete strength, and ultimately what we found was quality strength was okay, but then we asked them to check the design. So again they said, you check the design. So we checked the design, and we found out that deflection criteria, as per deflection criteria, that slab was failing, and the thickness where they have basically the difference was only this, that okay, they have provided overall thickness is 150 mm, whereas this effective depth was to be 150. So that is why it was just not this thing causing any sort of a cracks and all. So very marginal difference was there. So basically moving and all that was not causing, but yes, when you are hitting the floor hard, it was setting the vibration and causing the deflection, etc. And that sort of this thing. This is what generally we do. Also, this will, if any load has been added extra, so we need to be careful while carrying out any condition assessment. But sometimes this also. This is again a very example of a idea building. So idea, they were having this building in Chandigarh only, about 3-4 story building, and it was an office building, but they converted into a storage building. So what they used is they did is that okay, they were putting the racks. On those racks they were putting the जो आपके हमारे वो फॉर्म लेते हैं, उसकी हमारी फाइल सारी वो वहाँ पे स्टोर करके रख रहे थे. So basically not designed for this taking the extra load. So what happened? It caused the column to collapse. Not completely building got damaged, but column got collapsed and all that. And yes, so but they carried out the repair without putting any extra enforcement. Again they put the load, again it got collapsed. So then they came to us, we carried out their testing, provided the proper design, and then it was rehabilitated. So and what we used is, again there is the present concrete strength, and what are the reinforcement bars have been provided, whether some cracks are there or not. So accordingly it was rehabilitated. This is what overloading. Many times we construct an extra room over the balconies. This is what the standard flooring thickness shall be 40 to 60, but it is very, very high in this case. This is how it is happening. The structural cracks are there, structural collapses are there. Sometimes the shape of the building is not this thing. So this is regarding your I think let me go to just little bit introduction of your this. I will not go in detail of your this thing, but yes, just So having known this, you can see that these type of structural collapses are there. This is this thing. So basically, we are to carry out this visual inspection, and based on that visual inspection, we need to decide and conduct the various non-destructive tests. So basically, why we have to do these tests is sometimes you, as I think Harun was telling that okay, you have to get the structures. CBSC, AICT, they have made it compulsory to get a certificate of structure stability. So there, I think you can only judge the structure stability by using this NDT test. So then sometimes we have to decide whether it requires repairs or strengthening measures or not. Only then we cannot decide without carrying out the NDT tests. So there are various NDT tests. So basically, they are having a wide application, mostly for concrete structures. We are getting this test that okay, generally you want to know the concrete quality of the member, your chloride penetration, your carbonation, your cement content, etc. Is to be known, and then this assessment of deterioration. So this is again done by visual inspection and by combination of certain tests. We cannot on the whole structure, we cannot do the destructive test because it will cause the damage to structure also. At the same time, it is a very, very difficult sort of this thing. What you find with the NDT test is they are simple, easy to conduct at the site, and at the same time will tell you a lot of information about the structure. So that is why we are carrying out this NDT test, because conventional methods are basically have their limitations and cannot be used each and everywhere to carry out sort of this thing. So basically we can do the NDT test on any type of a structure, maybe pipeline, bridges, water tanks, power stations, refineries. Then both new and old structures can be tested, and then you can see. But again, you find there are so many NDT techniques, but these NDT techniques, it may not be single technique, may not be a useful one. So you have to do it in many locations and these things. So test on the non-suitability test method for assessment of structures are basically to be carried out, to be conducted to know the condition of the particular structure. So if you go into your type of the structure, so the type of the test. So in investigation, the commonly used tests are the Schmidt-Silberman hammer, ultrasonic pulse velocity method. These two tests in combination are very, very commonly used, and they are good in this one. Then you have to carry out the reverse scanner is used to know the reinforcement details. You can find out cover to reinforcement. You can find out your in cover to reinforcement is again important in a carbonation sort of a thing. Where carbonation is there, again cover to reinforcement is very, very important. Then spacing of the reinforcement and die of the reinforcement pass. And then you can carry out the corrosion test, where I think you can do this resistivity meter and use the half cell potential measurement. These are the tests basically which will tell you what is the extent of corrosion in any structure. Then you can core test, not partially NDT, but it can cause it does cause damage to the structure. We take cores, but sometimes taking cores from the structure is very, very important, because once you take out the core, if it is an old structure, and all those UPV, ultrasonic pulse velocity, if you are to measure the strength, so they need the calibration. So this calibration is done by taking cores at few places, because when you go into detail of Ramond hammer ultrasonic pulse blast, we'll find this Ramond hammer test and UPV test results depend upon type of cement, type of aggregate, fine aggregate, this thing. So all type of cement, etc., they all affect your UPV value. So either you can use the standard curve provided by this thing, or you can have your own curve plotted by taking the core, and then again you can predict the particular thing very accurately. We will discuss it in interpretation of results also. Then pulse echo test. Generally, this test is done for the piles. It is nothing but some vibrations or echo pulses are sent into your piles, and then basically once they travel down, reflected back, and then on the software provided, you can find out the depth, whether the concrete has been casted to full depth, or there is any sort of a discontinuity, or that particular pull-out test is generally you want to find out if you have used that bone test, basically, which we call is that if you have used a new structure concrete, old concrete to new concrete, so there you can use this pull-out test, whether concrete is failing at new concrete or old concrete is failing at what particular location. And maturity test is more a quality test, basically, where you are putting a thermometer inside the concrete at the time of casting and measuring the temperature and seeing that how much temperature is generated due to the heat of hydration, and that heat of hydration has been correlated with the strength development. So generally, that is what the objective of the non-stability testing is: quality control, evaluation of structure, estimating the compressive strength of concrete, identification of cause or damage and source of problem, determination of the material properties, determination of extent of damage, assessment of safety and serviceability of the structure, formulating remedial and preventive measures, determining the position, quantity and condition of reinforcement, estimating the cost of repair of replacement, increase the confidence level of few destructive testing techniques, and structure evaluation after repair. So a lot of this. This is I will not go into detail of this thing, but this is Ramond hammer. Different type of Ramond hammers are there, so you can use this Ramond hammer for finding out the strength. I think they will be discussed by the in the subsequent lecture when we are discussing the NDT techniques, and also where separately this thing. So this is what that is what I said. The Siemens Ramond hammer will depend upon that impact direction. This is what you can use. This is the standard curve. Comes basically you can use. So basically very easy test. You hit it hard against the surface, find out what is the strength and what is the Ramond number, and against that Ramond number on the graph you read the strength. So easy, nothing much to be done. So there are different types of Ramond hammer to be used for normal concrete or mass concrete or low strength concrete. So different tests are there. So that is what the type of cement, type of aggregate, surface condition, moisture content, curing, age of concrete, carbonation. Carbonated concrete gives you a very high value of the Ramond numbers. But if your Ramond hammer is not having that carbonation adjustment, so you will be not having and testing on the carbonated concrete, you will get the very high strength, very high strength as per Ramond hammer, but where actual strength is lesser than that. So that is what we have to be careful and find out what is the carbonation test also. So this is the N-type hammer being used. This is that non-recording N-type hammer only. This is the P-type hammer for low strength concrete. You can find out the strength of plaster. This is the M-type hammer for having for mass concreting work, like your dams or airports, etc., where depth of concrete is very, very less. These are different type of hammers. P-type. This is the anvil, which is used to find out the whether your hammer is giving the correct reading or not. So generally, there is a standard. Once you hit the plunger of hammer against this surface, so it will tell you the exact sort of a this thing. So advantage is simple, speedy inaccuracy matter. Accuracy is plus minus 15 to 25%, and gives you a strength up to a limited depth only. And ultrasonic pulse velocity is again so here what we do is we have it this transducer, which one is a receiver, other is a transmitter, and once you own it, this particular thing, it sends the waves. These waves travel down, so they cannot travel between the void. So if there is any crack, any void in your concrete, so it will take a longer time to travel. Wave will take the longer time to travel. So we calculate the velocity. This velocity has been correlated with the quality of the concrete. Again, a very simple test. So this is the code, but now this code has been, this is 11311, but now this is all covered in 456 in different parts, and there this particular criteria has been changed, all that. So nowadays I think they say if it is your UPV value should be on any concrete not less than 3600. If it is less than 3600, you need to carry out further investigations. This is what I think 2 probes are there, and concrete you can carry out with that direct interact. I'm not going into detail because this is going to be discussed exactly, but I am just introducing the equipment to you. This is the Performeter rebar scanner. So it is used to locate bar, measuring concrete cover, measure bar diameter, and measuring the spacing of the bars. Again, a very good instrument. We have used it many times for our purposes. We have used the Hilti one. So this is again having a probe and attached to a microprocessor, and once you run it on the surface like this, you will get the readings. You will get all the details like bar cover, reinforcement, etc. can be done by this thing. This is what you can see. Different sort of units are there. This is the corrosion determination. Corrosion can be determined by using this. We have to use when there is a corrosion, you have to use carbonation test, which is a chemical test. You have to use this either this half cell potentiometer or corrosion resistivity meter. So these 3 things are to be used. So basically these factors: corrosion, either cell pH value, moisture, oxygen permeability, water permeability, dissolved chlorides, permeability of the concrete, cover to enforcement, etc. are important in the corrosion, and we have to find out all these factors while carrying out the corrosion investigation. So here this is again the resistivity meter, which is again we found out the resistance of the concrete, and there is a standard table. Once you read the readings against that standard table, you will be able to find out whether to what extent corrosion has taken place. So this is a half cell potentiometer. Again, we determine we pass a current, and with the help of a current we determine the voltage. That voltage has been correlated with the strength of the concrete. So I'm not going into detail how to conduct the test. I'm just introducing you to this thing. Right. So you prepare the half cell potential this thing by using the copper sulfate solution. Put one end of this measuring unit to this copper sulfate cell, and other end to the reinforcing bar. Wet the surface, making the conducting surface, and enter the concrete and note on the reading. So voltage reading will tell you what is the extent of corrosion. So more than minus 25, greater than 90% between this, and positive value between this, no corrosion is there basically. So that is what you can decide about different things. Then you can do this core testing. Core testing is not a purely a destructive testing, but non-destructive testing, but gives you a lot of idea about your this thing. So it has got all this thing. So you can prepare a structure stability report after carrying out your building inspection, overall condition of the building, significant defects found out, urgent repairs required, and once done, so it will include all what is the foundation defect, what is the frame structure defects, what are the defects in walls, what are the defects in windows, doors, roofs, terraces, floors, overhead tanks, underground tanks, walls, vegetation, termites, property damage, and terrain along there, this thing. So basically all these will carry out, tell you that what is the extent of corrosion, and there are certain other equipment also which I have not discussed it in this presentation. This is not there, okay, but this I think maybe if nobody discussed it on the final day, we will take it up these things also. and discuss it with you, that what is the type of a structure, what is the type of this thing. So we can conclude here that knowing the type of defect, knowing the cause of deterioration is important, and in order to find these all parameters, we need investigations using these NDT techniques. I think I have shown you very basic one, common use, but there are nowadays there are like some advanced techniques also. Most of those techniques are going to be discussed in detail in the coming presentations, because the program is purely on this NDT and non-simply testing techniques. So I think with this I will conclude, and Nick, maybe if you have got any sort of a some questions or some other discussion, this thing, you are most welcome. So any of the participants? Yes.
Participants, if you have any questions, you may unmute yourself or type it in the chat box.
So any case, if it is not any doubt is there, so any question is there, so we can conclude.
Good morning.
Yes, sir, sure, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we have a question from Manjunath, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon. After conducting test on RCC beams, we come to know that bar is rusted now. It is steel bars are corroded. Then how to prevent that one from corrosion of steel bars in the RCC beams?
Okay, because once you have carried out testing, so basically you need to know whether corrosion is due to colloids, presence of colloids, or corrosion is due to carbonation. There are two different things. So we need to carry out the carbonation test, take a core up to the say bar level and this thing, and then see that it is carbonation, or if it is due to colloid from the either cement or water used in that particular site. So accordingly we will repair it. If it is a colloid, so we need to put certain sort of a protection layer. First thing is, okay, we need to remove the concrete up to rebar level completely. So we with the then again corrosion will tell you to corrosion test will tell you what is the area affected by this your particular carbonation or corrosion ingress. So we identified that particular area by mapping it, and then if it is carbonation related corrosion, so what we do is that we remove the cover concrete, and again up to even you are around that bar also. So we need to know to what extent the bar has corroded. If it is corroded beyond 50%, then I think we have to replace that bar. But if it is not corroded, maybe 50% and 40%, 30% corrosion is there, so we can use that bar. So remove the bar concrete around the bar completely, so that to that extent your hand can go. You can hold that bar with your hand, and then apply a anti-corrosive coat, and then apply the micro concrete. Micro concrete has got a sort of a property. It is a self-bonding and high strength concrete. Its strength can be basically it is available in the market at the site from that manufacturers like Fosroc or BSF or Sika. So they will be providing you this thing, and then you repair that particular thing. So all the basically what happens that your concrete around the bar should be replaced completely, so that it is not carbonated or colloid affected concrete. Once you do that, so your repair will be very, very effective. So that is what the best way to repair is, that you remove affected concrete by, and all the surrounded concrete around the bar should be removed, applied a anti-corrosive coating, and then if on that bar, then repair with the micro concrete, and if it is a carbonation, then you completely provide sort of a anti-carbonation paint on that surface. And if
suppose,
it is a chloride affected, yeah.
Sir, if the depth of carbonation depth is more, no, that time what to do, sir?
That is what, if you, because carbonation as such to the in the concrete is not basically damaging. Basically, carbonation, if you test the carbonated concrete, it will give you more strength.
Yes,
But
sir, yes, sir.
because carbonation is, what is doing is basically, carbonation is chemical process where it is by coming in the moisture content and your gases, it is filling the voids and all that, if there are any sort of this thing is there. But
Yes, sir.
once it is lowering the pH value of the concrete. pH value lowering means that, okay, once it comes in, it reaches up the bar level, it causes demolding and corrosion of the concrete. So there it is damaging. So if you protect the concrete, other if it remains as such, there is not a problem. But if your carbonation has not reached up to the bar level, then you can provide the simply carbonation coating on the surface. No need to go repair the bar if it is not corroded, and then prevent the further corrosion, further carbonation, further ingress of the carbonation, arrest the carbonation at that level only. So carbonation, if it is reached up to bar level only, then it is damaging. But if you can prevent it, that is why we provide the 50 mm cover, and generally we take 1 mm carbon per year is very normal value. But if it is more than 1 mm, that means you need to provide some sort of protection. So that is how we take the life of a building also. Generally we say 1 mm per year means 50 years, or less than 1 mm per.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, but our sulfate is attacking our concrete, sir.
That is a different sort of. Then if sulfate is attacking, you have to treat the sulfate basically.
Yes, sir. If that is the case, no, if sulfate is attacking our concrete and it will start deteriorating our concrete, your chloride and both carbonation, they are attacking our it makes the it is reducing the pH value of our pore water, sir, present in CSHL, sir.
Yeah.
And then if suppose the sulfate is attacking our concrete and afterwards we come to know that concrete is affected by sulfate salts, then how to rectify that one, sir?
Basically, you have to inject basically some sort of a chemicals are there. These are all the Fosroc, all those people are providing those chemicals. You have to basically use those chemicals so that further arrest of that sulfate effect gets neutralized. They are available, but most of the things like if you are saying sulfate or all, if it is a disintegration to that extent where sometimes repair may not be possible. So there you have to decide that whether repair is economical or not, or whether reconstruction is much more appropriate. So you can repair it, but generally sulfates, if alkaloids are not together present. But I have not tested any structure where actually both the things are in beyond permissible limits. But if that happens, so like you have to use certain chemicals to restore to growing so that you neutralize the effect of these sulfates and concrete. But otherwise, if it is a new location, if it is a new location, if it is a new location, sorry, if it is an old structure, so then you have to find out that I actually got distracted. You are this thing what I was going to speak. So if it is a sulfate or new construction, there you have to take the appropriate precaution. If you know this thing, that is what we in that particular say Bikaner, or in that particular area, some of the army structures were there. So their old structures we rehabilitated using these sort of techniques. But for new structures, we said that because they were using the sand, if that particular sand was containing these sulfates in excess quantity. So there we told them that okay, you get the sand, appropriate type of a sand from outside also, but don't use this because what I think 1 year, 2 year old structures were getting affected, and very natural business and very prominent structures, they were being affected. So basically, no, they are starting using precaution, and old structure we have repaired, we are rehabilitated using this particular technique.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So anybody else?
Sir, we have two questions in the chat box, one by Aditya sir and another by Deepa Sinha ma'am.
We are having a honey problem in a room. Is only a cement paste sufficient, or we have to apply some other layer? Okay, honeycombing, basically, yes, you can carry out growting. I think use the pressure growting there to fill up the honeycombing. As I have given you example of that bridge in Mohali. So there it was basically a honeycombed concrete only. So what we did is we fixed the value of the UPV and remote number and carried out the growting either by cement. First it was cement growting because chemicals are very costly. If you can achieve by cement growting, well and good. If you cannot achieve by cement growting, then go for epoxy growting. Epoxy is a very fine material. So select that particular epoxy material, and it gives you very high strength also, achieves the strength in a very say shorter period, and gives you a very good strength also. So there we did both. What you can do is cement growting, carry out the grout, or you can mix your grout with the polymers also. You can use the polymers separately. And instead of using water, what we use the admixture and all that also, you put that polymers into your cement, this thing, and then with the pumping, you basically carry out the growth. So it will take care of your honeycombing. Again, one of the structure we tested, that was a foundation of a kiln mill of a cement plant. You can see that on that particular that kiln where this clinkers process takes place. So the foundation size was almost like I say about 15 meters, and 8 meter by 8 meter was the depth. And once there was a honeycombing, and when we tested, we told that okay, because our job was to tell them the UPV value. So basically, we found that UPV value due to honeycombing was very less. So we told them that you carry out that growting. But we never mentioned what type of a growting. So what they did is they carried out the cement growting, and after carrying out cement growting, afterwards they told me 125 bags of cement were put inside. But once they started the production, so even that foundation was weak, and it caused the vibrations of that rolling belts through that foundation to travel up to 2-3 kilometers. The overseas people who were there in the sitting 2-3 kilometers, they felt the vibration like earthquake is coming. So they said that okay, and then they immediately stopped the production. They again called us, we carried out the test. We still found that this particular thing is not there. So honeycombing may not have been basically values of UPV were still getting lower. So we asked them to do the epoxy growting. So they did the epoxy growting, and the next day it was almost okay. So honeycombing can be repaired by using either cement growting or this epoxy growting. So if another question is, bar is corroded more than 50%, then you have to remove the enforcement. Actually, you have to calculate the how many bars are affected, like this thing. So it is not necessarily if it is this thing, but there's additional bars can be provided. So basically rehabilitation means that okay, sometimes additional enforcement can be provided. Sometimes this ferro cement, as I given the example, from the bottom also you fix that ferro cement also. So basically either additional enforcement as you have to calculate the using the design process only. So with that design, you see that okay, how much effective is now the leftover reinforcement is there. This is what actually you have to do that.
So any other queries? So I think, sir, there are no other more queries. So I would like to thank you for sparing your valuable time and interacting with the participants. So thank you so much, sir. So now all the dear participants will join back at 2:30. Will join back at 2:30, sharp 2:30. Will join back. So thank you all. Will join back at 2:30.